Hey there everyone, back with another video, and in this video we will be learning all about JavaScript objects. Yes, we will be learning in depth and dive deep into this concept of objects in JavaScript. Guys, again before jumping in, let me have a very quick overview of this entire video, what we will be learning and what will be your takeaway from this video. So first we will be learning about a quick intro to classes and objects, because if you don't know anything about classes and objects, this video will not be very useful for you guys, because you need to have some kind of knowledge and understanding about classes and objects. So it really depends on the oops concept, like data hiding, data binding, polymorphism, and all of those kind of stuffs that comes under oops. So you need to have some kind of an understanding about what are objects and classes, right? So after learning about that, jumping into the JS, right? So how to create objects in JS. We will be learning about creating objects. Again, guys, there are a lot of kinds of objects and there are different ways of creating objects. So we'll be learning all about that in the second part of this video. And in the third part, we will be learning about objects properties in JavaScript. So we'll be learning about how to create properties, how to read properties of an object, and how to update the properties of an object, and lastly we'll learn about how to delete properties of an object. So we'll be learning all about the CRUD of objects properties in JavaScript. So this will be the third part, and the fourth part of this video will be similar kind of to properties. It's all about the methods, how to declare methods in the properties. And again, guys, this is not a function, this is a method that belongs to an object, right? So there is a difference between the functions and the methods, right? So we'll dive deep into the objects methods in JavaScript, and at the last, learning all of these things, all of the four things, we need to know how to use objects in real time, because learning all about properties, methods, and creating objects in JavaScript, what is the use of that? You need to use those objects in real time in your applications, right? So we'll be learning all about that in the fifth part of this video, and we'll ending up all of the things with this, right, using objects in real time. So yes guys, this is all about the quick overview of this entire video. So let's jump in and let's learn the first part of the video, which is all about intro to classes and objects. Before we get started, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe and also hit that bell button so that you will be notified whenever I come up with a new video. So guys, let's have a quick intro to classes and objects, because without knowing anything about classes and objects, we can't, guys, again, we can't have code JavaScript with objects. So it is just like a man without a heart. So if you have a kind of some basic, just a basic understanding about classes and objects, you can master objects in JavaScript, right? So this is just an object oriented paradigm. So let's have a quick introduction to classes and objects. Now guys, what is classes, or what are classes now? So class is just a blueprint for creating objects. So I'll just give you a quick example like this. So right, so this is just a quick example of a car blueprint, and this is a blueprint of a car, so we call it as a class, right? So in this blueprint we can we will be having some kind of planning for what kind of materials should be used, what kind of the tires, colors, and the height and the width, and you got it, right? So this is just a basic understanding about how an actual car should look like, right? So this is just a blueprint, so we call it as a class. So now what do you mean by an object? It is real-time entity, right? So this is actual car itself, right? So this is not a car, this is just a blueprint of this car, right? So this is a real-time entity and this is an instance of this class, right? So objects are, we call it as an instance of class, right? So now in this object, so since this is real-time entity, we have some properties, some values to that, right? So we in this car we can have a name of the car, a model of the car, a company that created this car, and the color of this car, right? So these are the values that are associated with objects, so we call it as properties, right? So properties are nothing but the values of this object. So now similarly we have something called as functionalities that are associated with objects. So functionalities like, move, speed up, slow down, open window. So these are some of the functionalities that the basic car have, right? So this is what we call it as, these functionalities are what we call it as methods, right? So methods are functionalities that are associated with an object. So objects are real-time entities, and that is an instance of the class, right? So this is just a basic and quick real-time the example of classes and objects. This is necessary for us to understand an OO concept, OOP, yeah, object oriented programming paradigm, right? So with that being said, let's jump in and let's learn how to create objects in JavaScript. So guys, let's talk about how to create an object in JavaScript. So now, having done with a glance of a quick introduction about objects and classes, so now how to create an objects in JavaScript. So before diving deep into this, we need to understand something called as types of objects, because again guys, there are two types of objects. So now you need to understand which type of objects you are going to create, right? So in JavaScript we have two types of objects. So the first type is, it's a built-in object. So now what do you mean by built-in objects? So JavaScript provides us an objects to perform some calculation or some logic around with those objects. So those objects that are provided by JavaScript, we call it as built-in objects. So and the second type of objects is user-defined objects. So now guys, I hope that you know what is user-defined objects, which means we ourselves as a JavaScript developer will create and define objects with the help of JavaScript language, right? So these are the two types of objects that we have in JavaScript, right? So having done with this, so now guys, how to create an object? Of course guys, now we are creating user defined objects, because we ourselves as a JavaScript developer, we are creating objects, right? So now we are dealing with user defined objects. So the question is guys, how to create user defined objects? So in order to create user defined objects in JavaScript, there are three ways to do that. I'll just say three ways. Yep. Okay, so now there are three ways to create objects in JavaScript. So the first and the easiest way is with the help of object literal. So this is the first type and the easiest type of the way of creating an object. So the second way is with the help of new keywords. So this is the second way of creating an object with the help of a keyword called as new. And thirdly and most difficult way of creating an object is in JavaScript is about what we call it as object constructor. So this is the third way guys. So now guys, let us jump in and let us know all the three ways to create an object, starting with the easiest one and ending with the toughest one, right? So let's jump in and let's do something called as, what if I just, again guys, what if I do something called as where person is person is equal to 0. So now guys, this is just a variable, right? So this is where as simple as that. So now guys, how to create an objects with the help of object literal. So now what you're gonna do here is, if you want to create using object literal, you need to use a curly braces. So this, with the help of curly braces, we are playing around with the user defined objects. So now guys, here you need to understand something called as, I'll just say in the comment section over here, it's a key value paste. So you need to understand something called as key value paste, because we will be defining a key and assigning the value for that key. So some folks will call it as name value paste. It's one and the same. So if you want to define something called as a person has a name, so it is a key now. So for that key we will be storing some value for that. So the value will be, I will just say my name, right? You can write any name for that. It is just a string. Of course the name will be in the string. So here guys, we have now created a user defined object which will be having an identifier called as person. So now what if I do something called as I will just log it to the console as person. Yeah, okay, save this file and go to the browser. You got that, right? So in the console we got an object created in JavaScript, right? So you can see here like object, right? So in the line number 16 we got the object created with the help of object literal. So now guys, if you want to have some extra key value paste, so now how to do that? So with the help of comma you can add another a key value paste, like I'll just say age is equal to, yeah, not equal to colon, yeah, it's colon, and you can also give some numbers as well, right? So now we have added an a second key value pair for that object. So now as you got, right? So and again guys, it is n key value pairs. You can define n key value pairs for any object. So I will just add another key value pairs like gender, and gender I will just say male, right? So and here we got those name and values, or key and value pairs of that object, right? So yes guys, this is the easiest way to create an object using object literal. So now let's jump in and let's define the same object with these three key value pairs with help of new keyword. So what I'm gonna do here is I'll just quickly comment this off, and I will again define something called as person, which is an object. So with the help of new keyword, what I'm gonna do here is I will just call this object constructor, right? So if I just save this and refresh the browser, boom, we got that, right? So this is guys an empty object. The reason is because there is no, at the moment, there is no a key value paste associated to this person object, right? So now we have created an object. Of course it is now an empty object. So now how to add a properties, guys? Again, I just forgot to tell you that these are the properties. The name value or the key value paste are the properties. We call it as properties in JavaScript. So now guys, how to add properties? It's very simple. What you're gonna do here is person dot, if you want to add name as a key, you will say person dot name is equal to and give the value for that. That's it. So if I just refresh the browser, you got that, right? So this is how we gonna add a key value pair with the help of new keyword. So if you just define an object with a new keyword, this is the way you add a property for an object. So I can also add age, and I'll just give age as 25, and it will be always reflected back to the object. So yes guys, this is the second way of creating an object in JavaScript, and I'll just comment this off, and let's learn the third and the difficult way of creating an object. It is with the help of object constructor. So now if you need to create an object with the help of a constructor, first you need to construct a constructor and then define an object based on that constructor. So guys, I recommend not to use this kind of a way to create an object, but because it is very difficult. So now what I'm gonna do here is I will just create a constructor called person, and with the help of this function, again guys, it is not now a function, but it is acting as a constructor, and I have given a caps as a the first letter as a caps to identify that this is a constructor now. So now what I'm gonna do here is I'll receive a parameters for that constructor like name, age, and gender, which we have done in the first way. And inside this function, what we're gonna do here is this dot name is equal to name. So again guys, don't worry about this. What I'm gonna do here is I'll just explain you guys in a moment. So what I'm gonna do here is this dot age is equal to 8, and similarly this dot gender is equal to gender. So now guys, don't worry about this keyword. The reason is because in this course we haven't studied the core concept of this. Just understand that we are assigning the value for that property with the help of this keyword. So this helps this indicates that this object, so for this object we are assigning the name which we have received in the parameter to this constructor. So now guys, what we now to do is again define a variable called as let me say my name, So I'm the object now, and in this object again I will be using with help of new keyword. So now over here, instead of calling an object constructor, I need to call this constructor which we have created now. So now in this constructor, we need to pass those values like name. I will just give the name as my name and the age as 25, and the gender is, I will give it as yum. That's it. So save it and refresh the browser. Got something over here. Okay, there is, guys, again, look at here, I did a mistake because there is no person over here, right? Person is not an object, but my name, which is Hanoak, is an object. So I'll just refresh that, and let's see what's happening over here. Sorry for that. And okay, so you got that right. So you should be very, very careful. So this is the, guys, again, this is the reason why this is the toughest way of creating an object, because you need to create a function which is a constructor and then create an object. It is a kind of confusing for you, right? As it happened for me. So now, guys, as you can see here, with the help of person constructor, object constructor, we have created an object, and as you can see, these are the values for their properties, right? So yes, guys, this is the way we create objects in JavaScript, and I have explained you in depth all about the three ways of creating an object. So make sure that you use the first way, which is an easiest way, which is an object literal, which we have done here, right? And yes, guys, this is all about it. And in the next part, let's play around with the properties on an object, like creating an object properties and deleting an object properties and all of those stuff in the next part. So guys, it's time to play around with objects properties. So now, how to add properties, how to update properties value, and how to delete properties, and how to create properties. So we will be dealing with and playing all of those stuffs in this part. So now, guys, what I'm gonna do here is, I don't want this messy kind of a thing, and I'll just erase this off, and I just uncomment this. And so now, guys, this is a simple object called person, which is created with the help of object literals, right? So this is a simple object. So now, guys, we have already created a properties for this object, right? So this is how we will be creating a properties for any object. So now the next question is how to add properties after creating an object. So it's very easy, guys. What you're gonna do here is, object, you need to use object's name dot and property key or property name. So I'll just say I have to add an address of that person, and I will just say address is equal to India. That's it. So this is how, guys, this is how we will be adding an extra properties for an object, right? So address came and added to that property. So it is very simple. So now we have learned about how to create a properties and how to add a properties and its value to an object. So now, guys, how to update any properties value. So now, what if the question is how to update the age from 25 to 30? Again, guys, it's very simple. So now what you're gonna do here is, you need to use object name, which is person, and its value, not value, it's a key. So key is age, and I will update it to 30, right? So now, guys, save this and refresh the browser. Boom, right? So now the property of age has been updated to 30, right? So it's very easy. So now we have got to know about updation and adding and also creating, and the last thing that is left is how to delete a property. So now, guys, the question is how to delete this gender property. It's very simple. You need to use a keyword called as delete, and you need to say person dot gender. That's it. So the gender property will be deleted off from this person object, right? So if I refresh the browser, boom, the person's gender is gone, right? So now, guys, this is how we will be deleting and property of an object. So simple. So we have got to know all of those: creation, deletion, updation, and we call it as addition, right? So adding a property and updating a property and creating a property and deleting a property. So this is how it is, guys. So we here in this part we have got to know all about properties of an object. So now we have played around with the properties of an object. So now guys, let us play around with the methods of an object. So how to create methods, how to delete methods, how to add methods, how to update methods. So we will be playing around with the methods of an object, right? So I'll just quickly erase this off because we are not dealing with again with the properties. So now guys, how to create methods inside an object. So now again guys, it's very simple. You need to give a key for that method. So now the key or a name for that method, I will just say add add age. So now this is the key or a name for that method, again with the help of a colon. So now if you do something called as this, it becomes a normal properties, it is not an method. So now how to add a method? So instead of giving the value, you need to give a function for that. So inside this function we will be having some kind of a functionality for that object. So now inside this function you can write any JavaScript code, you can calculate, you can have some calculation, you can have some processing, you can add some text manipulation. Again guys, it's up to you what kind of a code you write inside this function. So now guys, I'll just give that in the new line, and inside this function guys, I can write anything, but since I have given the name or a key for that method as an add age, I'll be just incrementing the age of a person like this dot age. That's it. With the help of pre-increment operator, we have now we have now incremented the age of that person. Again guys, we have not still studied about the this keyword, but we will be soon learning that. So now what you mean by this dot age, it's an age of this person, not the age of some variable called as age, right? So now we have created a method of an object, and now the thing is how to call that method. So if you want to execute that function, you need to call that person dot add age method. So now if I do something like this, the age of the person will be automatically incremented. So now as you can see here, the age is now 26. The reason is because we have called this function, and in this function we have added a person's age. So now you can return something out of this function. Like if you want to return something, you can also use this keyword called as return. So now it will return the incremented value of an age of a person. So now instead of doing this something called as this, you can also print the age of a person like person dot add age and call that function or a method. Yeah, it's not, again guys, it's not a normal function, now it's a method associated to that object. So now it will return what? It will return the age, the incremented age of that person. So now guys, we have now created a method inside an object. So now the question is how to add a method after creating an object. So now if you want to add a method after creating an object, so I'll just cut this off, and I will do the same back to the normal the object that we have without those objects. So now if you want to add a method, again you need to specify to which object you're gonna add that method. So now you need to give that method name, which is again the key. So is equal to, and give the same function as it is now. So now it's one and the same. If I just refresh the browser, again it will be doing what? It will be incrementing the age of that person, right? So this is how we will be adding a method outside or after creating an object of after creating an object, right? So now guys, how to delete an method of an object. So it's very simple. It's you need to use delete keyword, and you are deleting a person's method called as add age. That's it. So now if I just, instead of printing this calling this add age, if I just print the person which is an object. So now guys, if I refresh the browser, there is nothing called as a function or a method associated to that person object. So now if I just uncomment this, if you don't delete this, so if I just refresh the browser, you can see here an object called as add age is associated to that object. So now if I just delete that, it will no more be in the object. It's so simple, right? So yes guys, this is all about the methods of an object. Again guys, you can also have an extra method for that. It's again guys, you can add as many as methods for an object. So you can say add double age, or you can say yeah, double age, that's it. So it will just double the age of that person. So I'll just say instead of incrementing, I'll just say into 2, which will be the double of a person's age. So if I just say a person dot double age, it will be, I think, 50, right? Oops, yeah, 50. Yeah, boom, we got that, right? So we have added another method to that object. So now guys, yes, this is all about adding a method, adding and deleting and creating a method of an object. So now guys, if you want to update a method, there is no kind of updating. You need to change the functionalities of that method. That is what we call it as updating a method. So we can't update a method just like the properties, that just like the properties updation, we can't do those things, right? So yes guys, this is all about the playing around with the methods in JavaScript. So guys, let's talk about the real-time usage of objects in JavaScript. So now if you are using JavaScript in the backend, if you're using Node.js, so now you can get this guys, you can get this object as a string format to the server, and you can do processing, manipulation, and some calculation. You can write a lot of logic for that, and you can also use this values and store them to the database, right? So if you're sending a person's the values as an object, you can add a row in the database, right? So this is the all the real-time usage of objects in JS in the server side. But if you are using JavaScript within the browser, I mean in the client side, if you are using JavaScript to manipulate the HTML DOM, right? So you can do that. So you can change some text over here based on the JavaScript object received from the server. You can dynamically generate some kind of tables, or you can dynamically generate some drop down list. You can do all of those stuff, right? So I'll just quickly demonstrate you that over here, and I'll just erase this off. And now what you're gonna do here is, if you want to dynamically generate, suppose again guys, suppose let me say I have received this JavaScript object in the form of JSON from the server, and now our task is to manipulate and generate a dynamically generated table and put it out or spit it out in the HTML DOM, right? So how can you do that? I'll just give you some example, like str is equal to, so now what I'm gonna do here is I'll do something called as this. I'll just open up this thing, and now what I did here is guys, I'm just dynamically generating the tables. So now as you can see, I have done with the table tags and the table headers, and I've given name, age, and gender as the table headers. And now in the second line over here, what I'm gonna doing here, I'm using person.age, which means it's a age of a person which is in the object, right? So with help of objects, I can dynamically generate and table or drop down menu or select options. You can do anything else. So now what I'm gonna do here is I'll just say document dot write, and I will just spit it out in the HTML thing, right? So I'll just say str. So all of this text string will be stored in str. So now if I just go to the browser and refresh the thing, oh, there is something over here. Okay, I'm sorry for that. There is no var thing over here. Okay, I'm sorry for that. So save this browser. Boom, we got that, right? So this is it guys. This is how we will be generating a table or a drop down menu, or multi-select. You can do anything else from the object to the HTML page, right? So as you can see here, this is again guys a borderless table. You can again modify and beautify this with CSS and do all of those makeup thing. That is a part of another study. And now we have generated a dynamically thing, right? So this is how an object plays a vital role in JavaScript. Guys, again, objects are very, very, very extremely important. So without objects, you think that there is no JavaScript at all. So JavaScript is like an heart, right? So yes, guys, this is all about the objects in JavaScript. This is an entire, in-depth video. You can also call it as crash course, because I have explained you guys step by step, and from the scratch till the advance of objects, right? So yes guys, this is all about it. And if you are new to this channel, make sure that you subscribe and also hit that bell button, and please like, share and comment. I'm glad to get some small help from you by just subscribing, liking and commenting and sharing. Yes guys, this is all about it, and see you in the next video.